So, what I want to talk about today is something that if you are in South Africa, you've probably went through this. There was a time when I was scrolling on Twitter, and then I realized that there was a post talking about how you can now sell your brand on in Mr. Price stores, and I'm like, okay, let's check this out. I checked a few posts of everybody's like, oh, yo, now you can sell a brand at Mr. Price. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I go onto their website, and I actually just realized that they just have a feature. They just have a bunch of clothing brands from people in South Africa that they decided to feature on their website, and they call it, local business love. I guess it does help, because a website like Mr. Price, is a pretty big retail store in South Africa, as we all know. If you probably don't, then yeah, it is a big retail store. So you know those people are probably getting a lot of free traffic into exposing their brands and everything like that. And don't get me wrong, even though it would have been a lot better to have those brands be so directly in the retail stores, instead of just being featured in a small section of the website. They I guess they are trying to help in a way. I did actually run into a brand in there that's called Thesis. Apparently this brand has been around since 2005. Yeah, imagine that, man. A longest time, a longest time, man, longest time. And I just recently found out, and it's pretty dope, man. They got a store and everything. They got it going on, though, even though I just can't wrap my head around you know their designs and sort of the message that they're going with. Man, they seem to be like pretty much everywhere with that whole situation. But yeah, man, the brand looks pretty good. And the thing is, like, if you're a small brand, you are most likely always going to lose your customers to retail stores like Mr. Price. Let's just look at the facts right now. Like, if your brand sucks, messaging, everything like that, people just sort of don't understand what you're trying to go for. You're always going to lose customers to Mr. Price. So that's why it was kind of like you know this whole hurrah thing where, like, we were just I was excited. I'm like, okay, finally, if I can get my stuff to be in Mr. Price and get a lot of exposure, I can try to sell a lot more. But apparently that's not what the case was. Stuff was just getting sold. Mr. Price was just featuring a bunch of small brands that they think that they thought were dope, and then they just featured them on their website. So yeah, that was just but in a way, you just can't stop. You just have to keep going, even though the vibe was just killed after that. you know Everything was just like, okay, cool. So maybe if I can get Mr. Price to feature me on their list on their website, maybe I might get some exposure. Maybe, I don't know, more. Maybe I should just do it myself. And the thing is, this seemed to be something that a lot of us, especially in South Africa, we're looking up on Google. Because when I went up to Google and I was searching, can you sell your brand at Mr. Price. Google search literally completed my sentence before I completed it. So obviously there's a lot of people that were also wondering about the same thing, if they could get their brand in a retail store such as Mr. Price. And that actually gets me thinking. I just say that I ran into a brand Thesis that has been around since 2005. That just goes to show you how hard it is, and just how frustrating and hard it's going to be for you to finally actually get your brand to grow and scale. A brand that has been around since 2005, and it just seems like it's just starting to barely do well for itself right now. So if you're probably thinking about starting a brand, it's not something that's just going to pop off and be in front of people's eyes tomorrow. It's probably going to take longer. So this got me thinking. This idea started rolling in my head. I'm like, okay, cool. So this whole idea of trying to get your brand into retail stores, like how would I actually go about doing that? And then that's when I started googling, just sifting through blog post after blog post, stuff that wasn't really going to help me out here in South Africa, until I ran into a website that's actually called the Fashion Agent. The fashion agent, works with African fashion designers, and then they, through their own channels, they get your stuff into retail stores, and it is actually in here in South Africa, in Johannesburg. So that's when I was like, okay, cool. Then I started looking through that, and so in the next few days, I actually plan on, getting in contact with the fashion agent and actually finding out for you guys, just how they go about, evaluating a brand, and just, how, yeah, just what they look for before they start working with you and potentially getting your stuff on retail stores, stuff